Ruby's Grace. Sitting on the cool green linoleum tiles beside Barney, my family's beloved Irish setter, I ran my fingers down his back, releasing a fine layer of hair. It was a lazy afternoon in Centerville, Ohio, 1951. Barney and I were both 6 years old. "You're gonna pull that dog's hair out, Precious. Just you wait and see," said my babysitter, Ruby. Although I hadn't known her long, Ruby felt like family. She had begun doing housework for us months earlier, shortly after we moved to Ohio. I watched Ruby slide the iron along the sleeve of my father's shirt. She was wearing her usual black dress with starched white apron and collar and emitting the aroma of flowers. She sang as she ironed. "Wade in the water, wade in the water. Children gonna wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. Who's that young girl dressed in red? Must be the children Moses led, and God's gonna trouble the water." I imagined myself wading in the water, dressed in red, with God's sunny face in the sky, blowing gently at first, and then with a force that parted the water so I could walk safely to the other side. "Ruby," I asked, "what makes you so happy?" "I'm just talking to God, baby," she murmured. "Now let's get us some iced tea. I'm like to burning up," as she took a pitcher of sweet tea from the refrigerator. "Would you like to help me make grilled cheese sandwiches for lunch?" "Yes, please," I said. Ruby took the loaf from the bread box and removed 6 slices. "Let's make 3 sandwiches in case a friend comes over," she said. She handed me the mustard jar and a knife and said, "Spread the mustard just so, all the way to the edges like you always do." I dipped my knife into the creamy mustard, plopped it onto the bread, and spread it in swirls. I put the huge rectangular chunk of orange cheese onto the cutting board, and using the cheese slicer, executed a slight flick of my wrist, and a slice of cheese fell off. The perfect match for the yellow swathed bread on the plate. Ruby melted the butter in a pan and then popped in the sandwiches. She pressed them down with a spatula until they were a warm brown on the outside with a gooey orange inside, then cut them in half, producing 2 perfect triangles with cheese oozing out the side. As I was about to take a bite, the doorbell rang. I ran to answer it and found my neighbor, Johnny. "Can you come out and play?" he asked, looking at his feet. I ran into the kitchen to ask Ruby. "My friend Johnny's here," I told her. "Can he stay for lunch?" "That's who the extra sandwich is for," she said. "Go invite him in." I ran out and took his hand. "Come on in. We're having grilled cheese sandwiches," I said, pulling him into the kitchen, smiling at Ruby. Johnny froze when he saw Ruby. "I can't eat a sandwich made by a nigger," he stammered. "Mommy says they're dirty," and he ran out the door, slamming it behind him. I didn't understand what had just happened. What was a nigger? Who was dirty? Did he mean me or Ruby? I looked at Ruby with tears in my eyes, so disappointed that my friend had left, and for reasons that made no sense to me. "What's a nigger, Ruby?" "It's what people call other people that are different than them," she said, her tone matter of fact. "You mean because I'm a girl? He thinks I'm dirty because I'm a girl?" I couldn't believe it. It seemed so unfair. "No, baby, it's because I'm different," she said. "Because you're brown, is that it?" I asked, astonished. "Yes, Precious, people are always afraid of what's different. You pay no mind. Johnny doesn't know any better. We'll eat our sandwiches, and then you can go out and play with him. And don't fret, because we'll each get an extra half," she said with a wink. "But Ruby, God is brown. I saw him in the sky when he parted the waters, and he looks like you." I was certain of this. I saw it in my mind, and I knew it in my heart. "God has many colors, baby, and God loves everybody the same." She handed me a plate with 3 crispy grilled triangles and placed an identical one in front of her. After a brief prayer, she nodded, picking up her sandwich. Together, we ate our first bite.